Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm really excited to get to know Mimi Pleben better. She is an enterprise account executive at LinkedIn within the learning division. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you're the number one enterprise AE right now, right?
I think so. Yeah. I guess the last time I checked, which was a long time ago, but I think so.
That's awesome. Well, that means there's a lot of takeaways. And what really struck to me is because I think a lot of people look up to Brie as well, but she said that you were like her mentor, and you're the one who like really she like someone who she really looks up to. So that definitely planted the seed, and I was like, ooh, that's interesting. Like, definitely want to get to know Mimi more. So really excited to do this, and
Me too.
just to open it up, I want to read some of these awesome recommendations that you received from some of your clients.
Oh, those were a while ago, but go for it. And also, side note, Bree is going to be my manager one day, or like my director, VP. Like that's going to happen. So just, she's incredible.
I mean, but to your point though, hey, you could be an awesome individual contributor, and it's cool to like even do that as a career, right? Because honestly, like you guys probably make more money than most managers, if not all the managers, right?
And I can create my own schedule. I can come and go. I think now in my life, I like the flexibility. You know, if I need to leave at 3, I know that no one needs me. I don't have to get on a call at 6, because you probably know I come in early and leave earlier. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people in their sales career are like, okay, I'm enterprise, now I need to go to management. But I don't know if that always needs to be the case, right? You could be an IC and be just as successful, to your point, if not make more. Just depends on, what your goals are, but maybe one day I'll be a manager. Not now though. I love my freedom.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I do think that you're right. I think most people just assume that, all right, like I'll do this sales thing for like 5 years or 10 years or whatever, and then I'll do manager, like just because like that's what everyone else does. But
Mhm.
you and Brian Mullins and Morrow and Crook, like I feel like you can ask, if anything, like you guys have equally, if not more, impact, in the sense that like not only you bringing in more revenue, but you're leading the way of what's possible for like just ICs like me and everyone else, right? So in a way, like the impact is a little bit different, right? Maybe it's not like
Mhm.
you work with these 8 reps like very intimately, but it's like you're impacting like the 50 or whatever of us that are AEs
Mhm.
in North America.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. And it's funny because if you would have asked me probably 6 years ago or something, when I was younger in my career, I would have said like my ultimate goal is I want to be a VP, or I want to run a sales organization or president. Now I'm like, I don't want to do that. That is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Like I see some directors, and I think that some like directors and VPs have a really good work-life balance, but it's really demanding. And for me to like come home and eat dinner and then hang out for a second and then get back on my computer from 8 to midnight, I couldn't work that much. Like I work hard, but I'm very protective of my work-life balance. Let's just say that I'm not, I think some people are wired to work a ton. Not me.
See, that
Not going to happen.
I feel like that's inspirational, because I do think a lot of people have the misperception that you have to put in like an 80-hour work week to make like, I'm not going to make any assumptions about how much money you make, but let's just assume that a lot of enterprises
Mm-hmm.
do pretty well for themselves, right? So I think
Mm-hmm.
that you have to put in like 60-hour weeks to be making like north of like 150K, let's just say. I'm just giving out like an arbitrary,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but so it sounds like that's not the case. Like you can work like a full 9 to 5 and still be able to make the type of money that you and other enterprise AEs.
Yeah, I think so, 100%, especially in sales. And I would be burnt out if I worked all the time, 8 to 8, we'll call it Monday through Thursday. Like you couldn't pay me like $1 million just because I wouldn't be happy overall. And I think that like the first in, last out type of mentality.
Hmm.
I personally don't agree with it, especially in sales, because I also think that if you work hard and smart, there's no need to work a million hours a week. You can do that in a short amount of time, and just be more efficient. And like when I come to work, though, you probably notice this, like my head's down, which
Yeah.
I get a lot of heat from my team. Like, you don't talk when you come to work. And like, I know I'm trying to get better at that and be a little bit more social, but it's very like, I'm here to do my job, and then I'll talk with you like after hours.
Hmm.
Um,
Huh.
but I think I pride myself on being
Focused.
super efficient.
I think Sam Flack is the same way. She seems like very like dialed in, and she's also, very, she's, it seems
Hmm.
very productive. But I always see her like her head's down, like she's like always working hard. Like I'm always like, man, like I don't know, personally, like I can't do that, right? I get distracted so easily.
I get it. And a lot of salespeople are super social, and that's part of it. And I'm social too, but I also think that there's a fine line between putting your head down and like helping other people too, because not being that lone wolf and like making sure you are giving time to others, and not giving time in a self-serving way that's like, oh, I want to be a manager, so I'm going to mentor all these people. More like, do something that you enjoy, but you're also good at, and balance that too, right? Like if you say yes to everything,
Hmm.
then you're going to be working those longer hours, because
Hmm.
you have to be careful of your time, but also not selfish, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think finding that balance is hard, and I think it's harder for some people than others. Like I think I'm guilty of,
Hmm.
it's way harder for me because I think I say yes to everything. But I do think like now that I'm like at home, it's much easier for me to focus. And actually, I feel like I've been much more
Hmm.
productive now that I have less distractions.
Yeah, I mean, especially at LinkedIn too, right? We have distractions everywhere. Like we have workout classes in the middle of the day, which are great. I take advantage of those because I prioritize that. But we have tools like, you have everything. Your like friends are there who are colleagues that are great. So it is hard. And I know a lot of people that say like, when I work from home, I have no distractions. But I think learning to say no to things is important too. Like at first I would feel really guilty because I'd be like, oh, this director asked me to do this. Like I need to say yes to it. But sometimes I'm like, I don't have the bandwidth because I'm doing this, this, and this. Or if it's something I'm really not passionate about, I may say like, wish I could help you, but I'm not passionate about this. Here's someone who I think is passionate, and like giving an explanation as to why you can't. But it's okay to be like, I'm stressed right now. I don't have bandwidth. And I've done that before. It's still hard, but if you overextend yourself, I think it can impact your numbers, but then can also impact the amount of time you're working and the overtime you're working and stuff like that.
That's a good point. So I'm so glad. I guess that's why you and Brie are similar in a lot of ways, because I feel like she gets like her shit done, and it's like in a normal like 40-hour work week, right? Whereas like I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
names, but there's other reps who get there just sheerly do like just putting in like a lot of hours, right? But
Mm-hmm.
maybe they're also the type of folks that like say yes to like everything, and then because of that it's like they have to make up because like they're helping this director or this manager or this new rep. And I think, I'm not saying that's like good or bad, it's just like, okay, like if I know I'm gonna say yes to like Kyle and KP and all that, then I probably will have to put in an extra 10 hours just to like make sure I hit my goals as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's really dependent on a lot of factors too, and how much you work. How is your manager? What is your manager saying? How are you wired, I guess, internally with regards to work? And I also think not seniority, but I'm at a point now where like, okay, I know what I need to do. My manager trusts that.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like I have to come in and work all of these hours just to show face.
Hmm.
But I think when you're younger in your career, there may be that perception that, oh, you have to work all these hours in order to get, be a top rep. And I don't, again, necessarily think that's the case. And also, I will say, on another note, like I'm very fortunate to be efficient and effective in my role. I'm fortunate that I have a manager that lets me come and go, and some people don't have that luxury, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't work
But to your
60-hour weeks.
you gain that trust over time, right? Because like you
Mhm.
consistently produce, like you're, you know what I mean? And you, at the end of the day, like you do come in early, right? Like I also come in early.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's more just to kind of like do whatever my stuff is before I start my day. But I do
Mhm.
like pretty early, but to your point, like you do leave early because you can, like you've developed that trust and that credibility, like, hey, like I'm gonna produce, like I know that I'm gonna do everything I can to hit my number, and you don't have to worry about
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And I think whenever I get new managers, I have candid conversations with them just about me and kind of how I like to be managed, how they like to deal with independent contributors or their direct reports. And one thing I do say is that I am very, very, very hard on myself. So just know that if I'm not doing well, I'm already stressing out, and you won't have to worry. I'll be working,
Huh.
a lot. I'm not going to slack off, but it's important for them to know that I will stress myself out so much, and I'm getting a lot better at that. That has taken years for me to not think I'm going to get fired all the time.
Right.
But I think it's important for them to know, because if they come to me and start saying, "Where's your pipeline? Where's this?" I'm just going to basically crumble, and it's going to be counterproductive. So I think having that conversation, but again, to your point, yeah, if I wasn't having the best year, I would I work 40 hours, but there's only so much you can do in that time. And I don't know, would 60 hours change my output? Probably not, being honest, because I'd get too burnt out in
Uh,
that last time. Um,
huh.
but I think having those candid conversations with managers is important. And it took me a long time to get there too.
Mm.
I remember Ryan Kaiser, who, as you know, was our old director. Like he was managing me when my manager was on mat leave, and I told him that, and that was the first manager I actually told. Like, dude, I go crazy in my head. Like, trust me. And it was the best thing ever, because he kind of let me be, and I was just not stressing out and freaking out all the time, which was helpful, because when you start to freak out, that impacts everything. When you start to have anxiety, it impacts your calls, everything, personal life. I would like have dreams about deals. I'm like, this is not healthy. Oh my God. Why am I having a dream about this? Which I still do sometimes, but
Relatable, because I think all of us who are a high producing salesperson, and you kind of have to be to make it at LinkedIn, right? Or to even get the job at LinkedIn, right? So I think all of us can relate where, we've thought about deals and, have lost some sleep, whether it's like an hour or 2 hours of sleep, because like we have a big meeting that it's like, all right, it's supposed to come in today. Like, am I doing
mhm.
everything I can to make sure this goes smoothly? All the internal folks, all the, there's so many moving parts to it.
Yeah. And I think like a good example for me, and there's a reason why I'm saying this, but so our last fiscal year, and the stub period, so the 2 quarters of stub period in the last fiscal, the stub period, I think I came in at like 80%, which was not my normal output. That it was not fun. And then last fiscal, so coming right off of the stub, I think I entered Q3 at about, I don't know, maybe 20% to my annual, which was not pacing at all. Like I was so behind, and I would panic all the time. And I think that, like, for me, I went up to my boss and I was like, I know this is irrational and illogical, but if I was going to be put on a plan, what I know. And he just started laughing. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I told you it was irrational and logical, but he's like, Bibi, you would know well in advance before you're even on that. And if you didn't, I wouldn't be doing my job. And I was like, okay. And it kind of calmed me down. And I remember having a conversation with Melissa Sherman, because I still, even meeting LinkedIn 7 years prior to that, I was still like, I think I'm going to get fired. Like, I'm going to get put on a plan today. Like, just not rational thoughts. And Melissa was like, you need to get it together. Like, you're not going to get fired. And I thought to myself finally, and I think this was the turning point to where I didn't freak out, because it doesn't feel good to always feel that. Like, it's really stressful. I was like, you know what? If LinkedIn, after I've been with the company for so long, if they decided, hey, it's time to go on a plan, well, for me, okay, then I think we should part ways. Like, this clearly, there's a disconnect here, and it was a great run. And what I found in thinking that is like, okay, I'm still working just as hard, but I mitigate some of that unnecessary stress that's in my mind. And I also, in an odd way, whenever I feel stressed, I don't pipeline, I don't this, I don't that, I just prospect, because for me, if you look at sales, there's never an end, like never, right? You can crush it, and then it's the next quarter and you're like back to zero. Sweet. It is just never ending. And so for me with prospecting, there's a start and there's a finish. And I'm like, okay, if I can get 50 contacts today, I'm going to walk out of today and be like, I literally crushed today, and that's actually going to pay dividends in the future, because those meetings will come. So like, control that. So that's what's worked for me. It's like, okay, I feel very accomplished. Even if I didn't talk to anyone, I'm like, I did something today. So that's helpful for me. And I also oddly like prospecting, which is weird. But I think it's a finish and an end.
It's interesting because like hearing you say this, it definitely makes me feel like very human, because on the outside, right? Like what I think anyone would agree, like when they see you on the surface, it's like you're super confident, like you're like I don't know, like I can't even imagine that these things go through your mind, because like just on the outside, it just seems like you're like rock solid, you know what I mean? But it really
Oh, thank you.
it's interesting to hear you say this, to say the least.
Yeah, like even one thing I'm working on this year is being more confident when I'm talking on like our all hands or something. Like, I panic.
Really?
Like, I'm like, oh my gosh. Yes, like I'm getting better at it on just our AE all hands, but still like I'm like bright red. Like, even before this call, I was a little bit like, okay, you got this. Like, I have to like psych myself down. But I'm trying to get better at that. But it's nerve-wracking. And at the end of the day, though, like I'm not gonna say anything like that's gonna get me fired. If I say something dumb, guess what? No one's gonna remember it. Who cares? But yeah, I like even in like our training settings, I like don't really like raising my hand. I don't know why. It's weird, but oh yeah, I go.
That's so interesting.
I feel that.
And it's funny because actually, even before this conversation, like, so my nervous tick is I actually have to go pee. So too late, because I was like, oh God, I have to pee. But then it was just funny. But yeah, it's just funny how things work, you know?
I know. And in the all hands, like whenever I talk, I'm like, I'm bright red. No amount of makeup is going to cover that up. I'm just going to go with it right now, because it just happens and whatever. But yeah, I get so nervous in those. Like, oh, I have all those fears.
On the outside, like, because, you know, I would say one of the things that resonate, like, you just seem very confident in everything, right? Like, it just seems like you're like Iron Woman, like Wonder Woman, for lack of a better word. And then it's just funny hearing you say this, but would love to.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read some of maybe one or two of your recommendations.
Go for it.
Ryan said, Mimi is someone who I would always want on my team. I've had the pleasure of knowing Mimi for the past year and a half, during which we were both members of the acquisition sales team. Above all, I was impressed with Mimi's ability to pave new ground, selling new solutions to new client segments. She challenged me to be a better sales pro. And of course, her determination is second to none. Mimi would be a true asset for anyone looking to take their sales organization to the next level, and comes with my heartfelt recommendation. So it seems like
McCarthy. Oh, that's nice to hear. I haven't read that in a while. Thank you. Should read those as like pick me ups. It's, you know what's weird too, and this may be more of a female thing, but I don't want to put it in buckets and say males don't think this, because that's not the case. But I feel like some of it may be like imposter syndrome in a way that like, oh yeah, he said that, but does he really, is he just saying that to be nice? Like, it's hard to sometimes like take feedback and be like, oh, actually, I'm really proud of myself for doing that. Oh, actually, I helped this person. And that's one thing I'm working on too. But sometimes you're like, are you just trying to be nice to me? Like, no, people aren't just saying things like that to be nice. But it's interesting when you hear things sometimes, because you're like, oh, okay, but do you really think that? But that recommendation's nice. And that I worked with him in staffing, and he's someone that I would look up to. So when I got that, I was like, oh my gosh, you said that about me? Like,
Aw.
oh, that's great. Nice to hear those things.
Yeah.
But I think it's okay to be like, yeah, I did crush it. Like, yeah, I am a good team member. Instead of having that little thing in the back of your head that's like, you're just saying that. I think for me, like getting better at, oh, okay, yeah, I did impact this person, or I did have an impact, is a good thing. Obviously, without getting cocky, because no one likes a cocky, annoying person. Like, oh, that's the worst. But I think taking compliments sometimes is weird though. Like, you know, in your performance reviews or something, if you had a really good quarter or half, you just kind of sit there and like hear all of it. You're like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. So awkward, but it's good, and I appreciate it. I digress there, but
No, that's a good point. I think so. One have like really high standards. Clearly, you do, and you. Thanks for sharing your like inner dialogue. So how does someone have like a really high standard of excellence, like you, and I'm assuming like Brian Morrow and Mullins and Liz and all the enterprise folks, but still like you sometimes use it as a way to feel you're like prospecting and like grinding,
mm-hmm.
and also like you don't want to be complacent. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to be like just like 100% of quota. Not to say like anything's wrong with that, but obviously the reason why you're number one is because you have a higher bar set for yourself.
Mm-hmm. I think, and you're saying, how do you do that when you have like your inner workings or doubt? Is that what you're asking?
More clear. I guess like how do you like sometimes use it to like empower yourself to like work really hard, but not too much to the point where like it's like where your friend I think you said Melissa was like, hey, like dude, like get a grip, you know?
Yeah, good question. So I think I'm trying to get better at like controlling what I can control. And I think I can control my levels of anxiety. Granted, I'm gonna have anxiety that like I just can't control, and I'm stressed at times. But I think doing activities that you know are gonna make you feel better. Example, the prospecting is gonna decrease that stress. And I think knowing yourself too. So a couple of things for me, I know that if I would work 60, 80 hours a week, that's just going to make me more stressed and more unhappy. Whereas if I do those little things throughout the day that I know are going to make me feel better, that's going to be a lot more impactful than working a shitload of hours. I also know what I can and can't do when I'm stressed. So for example, we have a dashboard, right? And we have like stack ranks that are sent out. And the fiscal year I wasn't doing well. Ryan Kaiser, our director, obviously, would send out those, and I would automatically delete them. And I would ask like Morrow or Liz, I'd be like, hey, what do I need to know from that email? Because I know if I look at that, I'm going to get in my head. Like I won't look at the dashboard in Salesforce. Like there's no point to that, because that's going to cause unnecessary stress. Like I know where I am. I've closed $0. I'm at the bottom. Looking at that is only going to fuel that anxiety, and it's going to negatively impact me. And so I do things like that. I think, again, I talked to my manager about it. I'm like, I'm stressed. I can't talk about my pipeline today because I will lose it. Like we can't do that. But again, like it does fuel when I'm stressed, doing things like prospecting. That's what I can control. Even like cleaning out my Salesforce pipeline, I can control that. And that's something that a lot of people don't do. And management appreciates it. Cleaning out my inbox, like little things like those are like, ooh, I feel
Yeah.
super accomplished. And because I think sometimes what would happen is if I don't have those, they're not coping mechanisms, but like there are things that will actually help me down the road. I'd almost freeze. You know how sometimes when you're so overwhelmed or stressed, you're like, I don't even know where to start right now. And I think that's what would happen if I didn't have those other quick outlets. And like finally, I think like it's okay to like take off work. If I'm not feeling a day, I'm like, you know what? It's 2 and today just isn't working for me. Whether it be some like 2 people just told me no, or all this shit hit the fan, or I just wasn't feeling it. I think it's okay to be like, you know what? I'm just going to chalk this day up as a loss. I'm going to go home. I'm going to re-energize, and I'm going to come to work tomorrow in like really great, because I could sit there from 2 to 5, but I would just stress myself out and wouldn't get anything done. And I don't think that that's productive. And then 2 more things, and I'll stop my rant here. I think that I let myself feel sorry for myself, but I'm like, okay, there's a timeline, right? So for instance, when I was back in sales dev all of 8 years ago, I was put on a plan in the first 3 months, literally because I tried to master the Rubik's Cube. I didn't do shit. I like came in and didn't do my job. And so like I gave myself, when they put me on a plan, 24 hours. I'm like, okay, you feel sorry for yourself, blame everyone else. And then I wrote down on a piece of paper after I was finished feeling sorry for myself, all of the reasons I wasn't hitting. And then it's like 25. I went back through and I crossed out all of the excuses, and I was left with like 3 reasons. And I came back in the next day and fixed them. And I'm like, okay, you're going to get this done. What irritates me the most is excuses. I don't know why, it just does. Like, just come in, try to get the help that you need. And sometimes certain jobs aren't for certain people, but like, don't sit there and be like, woe is me, poor me, and cry about it. Like, figure out where the disconnect is and then fix it. Like, and that seems so simple, but I don't know. There's a lot. I used to like bitch about stuff, and I'm like, no one likes that. That was a rant.
No, that's very useful. Because I think a lot of people think like being an enterprise AE is like glamorous, right? Because you do get a lot of recognition. Obviously, like the pay speaks for itself, right? But I think from the outside, a lot of people think like, oh, these salespeople, they get all these like nice conventions to go to Vegas, and they do all these like cool things, and they get to travel, blah blah blah. But I do think it's good to have like a realistic expectation of like, actually the job is a much harder than people think. So I'm glad we're talking about this, because I do think people try to paint like this picture of what it's like to be an enterprise AE, and honestly, like, it's not as glamorous as people think.
No, I mean, like, I love it. Don't get me wrong. And I also think there are hurdles in every, like, AE, like the ones in mid-market enterprise. Like, there are different challenges. I feel like sometimes in enterprise you're like banging your head against a wall. But I think there are challenges in all of them. And yeah, there is the recognition. And it is funny that you say that, though, because I remember like when I was the one in an SD, I was like, oh my gosh, these enterprise reps, like, they are the greatest thing ever. And I just hope one day I can get to that level. It's funny you think that. And now, like, that I'm in an enterprise role, I'm like you guys are just as good as I am. Like, I'm just here. You could do this role. It's, it's not quantum physics. And it's just funny how I'm like all of the reps could do, not downplaying what I do, but I also think with like coaching and stuff, anyone, like, I still look at the 4s as like, I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are so good. Like, I don't have some of these skills, like executive presence or whatever that means. I still don't understand that. I do, but I don't. But it's funny because I look at the 4s similar to how others may view the 3s. You know what I'm saying?
That's interesting, because if anything, like, you embody executive presence. So it's just funny here. You know what I mean? One word, or I guess that's 2 words technically. But I would be like, Mimi, yeah, executive presence, like clearly, you know.
That was the greatest compliment I've gotten in a long time. So thank you.
um, huh, interesting. All right, one more. I feel like that was fun seeing your
Okay.
question. All right, where to even start? So this is Katrina. Mimi was essential in the progression of my career at LinkedIn and still plays a pivotal role in providing mentorship, which I cannot be more grateful for. Right from the get go, she was extremely easy to work with, compassionate, knowledgeable, patient, down to earth, and inspiring. She cares deeply for the success of her clients, and it truly shows in her results and relationships built with everyone she interacts with. I'm continuously impressed by Mimi's acumen and flair for handling challenges. She's the most she is most definitely not one to give up when life hands her obstacles. In fact, not only she'll not only find a solution, she'll shock and amaze, paving the way for others to follow in her footsteps through her ingenuity. I can't even pronounce ingenuity.
Inge- Ingenuity, is that it? I'm like terrible with words sometimes. Ingenuity, we got it.
Ingenuity and drive for success. I'm so thankful for my time working with Mimi, and I see her as a trusted advisor, inspiring role model, fantastic strategic partner, passionate sales professional, and a great friend. I would recommend Mimi
Oh,
for any position she decides to take on, and she would be a great asset to any team. Well, that's pretty cool.
oh, oh! I need to go read those. You know, when you have those down days, I'm just like, I'm gonna read these. She was great. I think two things there stood out to me. I think one is, and I'm guilty of this. By no means am I saying that I don't do this. Like, I've been guilty of it. I probably will in the future. But I think with sales, and it may be more prevalent in sales, maybe I'm just making this up, but like, you know, when something happens and it's annoying, whether it be like quota, we can't, like, I don't know why people get upset about quota. There's nothing we can do about it. It is what it is. Or like an inefficiency or something that isn't working and it's broken. I think far too many times do people, and again, I've been guilty of it, just bitch about it. And they're like, this is dumb. No, 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 this is stupid. And if I were a manager or director, I'd be like, okay, great. I know you think it's stupid, but what is this accomplishing? You saying all this? Like, what I try to do every time is I say, okay, this process is broken. Here is how I think we can fix it. Even if that's not how we're going to fix it, at least I put thoughts into here's a possible solution, because I think your credibility is built then too. And you're not just coming with a problem, you're coming with a solution too. And I feel like that's helped me like get certain processes fixed. And I think you gain respect from that too. And I like doing that too. Like I like solving problems like that. Again, there's a start and a finish. Granted, sometimes the corporate red tape makes it a lot harder, but that's going to happen anywhere. And then the second piece is that I gained from that is like mentorship. Like I'm very passionate about that. I don't do it because I want to be a manager. Like I genuinely like mentoring people, and because I learn from them too. It's not a one-way thing where, you know, I'm giving them all this knowledge. It's very back and forth. But I think specifically with sales devs, I view my sales dev as like, it's my job. Like it's in my job description. It's not in my job description to like help you. Like I view that relationship as I have more of the burden to help you than you do me, if that makes sense. Like I should help you develop as a sales professional and get to the next role. That's more important than you making me ops. Because at the end of the day, getting those meetings is my job too. Like I can't rely on them. And I think it's super important, and it's fun. Like when you see your sales stuff get promoted, I like love that. Like, yes, I've been there. And I wouldn't be a 3 today without those people that helped me along the way. Like I was probably so annoying as a sales dev. Like, oh my God, I would ask so many questions, and but I was fine. But I think helping others like that is important. And hey, I'll also say that mentoring people is not everyone's thing. Totally fine. But if you like it, you have a lot to give, like, do it. Good. Fun. We need to do that.
What I hear in your share was that I feel like you're like 100% responsible, right? You're not a victim of the circumstances. And if you are, it's like for 24
Mm-hmm.
hours or whatever, right? So I do hear that you do
Mm-hmm.
the responsibility. Okay, it's like, what can I own about this? Because I do think sometimes we blame external, especially in an enterprise. I'm sure like there's way more externals, right? Because at least in SMB, I can just hustle my way to hitting my quota, right? With a big,
Mm-hmm.
like, there's literally no excuses. But with you, it's like you don't have
Yeah.
accounts to like, like if one falls, like, I mean, you still have more, but you don't have 900 accounts.
Yeah. And again, it's okay to feel sorry for yourself, right? Like, it's okay to have times where you're like, F this, like, this is stupid. But like, there's got to be a cutoff, and it probably has to be like, it's not in the middle of the office. It's not constantly among your teams. Like, I think it is important too. Sometimes I'm like, this is stupid, and I just want to, like, to a confidant, like a colleague that I'm really close with. I'm like, can you just give me a minute to rant and like vent, and then I'll be over this. But like, I and sometimes things aren't fair. Like, that happens. But like, say it and then like move along. Like, we all know some of those people who constantly, like, I think in your last podcast, Liz was saying, like, she had a bad attitude at once, and it does impact the team. And by the way, her like turnaround, was incredible. I'm like, I love you. Like, you are so great. But I think, yeah, you don't want to be the person who has that negative attitude. It's draining. It's draining for yourself too. And don't get me wrong, I'm not always like Miss Positive. I probably err on the more like, not negative side, but I'm a skeptic, if you will,
Uh,
in
like
in
that.
a respectful way.
Huh. Yeah, it reminds me of like the challenger sale. It's like you challenge people's preconceived notions, and because of that, people can disrupt the status quo.
Yeah, right. Picking and choosing is good too.
Right.
Like, pick and choose what you want to fix, or similar in full circle, like picking and choosing projects you want to be a part of. But I think, you know, there are times where you can vent and air things out, and other times, example, quota. I could talk about this bitch all day long. Is it going to get changed? No. So like, I don't know the point of it. Like,
Right.
take it and move along. I also, and this may not be the best thing to say, and I may get some heat for this, but like, 9 times out of 10, my quarterly number, I don't know what it is. Like, I
Yeah.
have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm still doing the same thing. Like, I'm working really hard. My process is very like rigorous.
Hmm.
If my number were $1 million more in a quarter, it's not going to change
Hmm.
what I do.
Interesting.
Maybe not the best thing to say, but like,
No, I like that because I think like you know that like, all right, I'm gonna put in the effort. I'm gonna like do whatever it takes, and ultimately like the number is kind of like, I know that I can trust myself that like, hey, I'm doing everything I can in my control, and ultimately that will lead me to success. And because you've done it year over year for so many years, it's kind of like, all right, well, not much is going to change, right? Except like maybe I'm like,
oops, you're breaking up.
oh, what's up?
You've frozen.
Oh no, I hear you, but I that's so weird.
Is this the end of our recording?
I do see. It's funny because I see myself, huh? Well, I'll just leave people with, because man, that 45 minutes went by like pretty quickly actually. um, Mimi, can you hear me? All right, I guess we're leaving it with that.